Omicron's webinars feature best practices and best-of-breed applications for the users of the OSIsoft Pi System. Welcome to this new episode in our series. For more information, visit us at www.omicron.com.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar sponsored by Omicron, a partner of Dimension Software. Omicron's webinar series are designed to promote best practices and best-of-breed layered applications for the OSIsoft Pi system. Today, we will look at Asset Intellect, a content management infrastructure built with and for the OSIsoft Pi system. My name is Bernard, and I will be your moderator. Our presenters are David Barker, Technical Director of Dimension Software, and Robert Aikman, Business Development Director at Dimension Software. Today, we are addressing the best practices around the content management for users of the OSIsoft Pi system in the process industries. This practice has taken a whole new meaning in these challenging times because assets and workers are now more remote than ever, and we need to counter this sudden distancing with improved content management and workflows. Today, you'll hear about how we integrate into the OSIsoft Pi system and how we can manage many different sources of content. You will discover also how we use AF to drill down into information as needed throughout the portal. And finally, you'll see some examples as well of how we create manual data entry forms for multiple contexts. Before I hand the microphone to our presenters, here are a few tips to keep in mind during the webinar. The presentation should last about 30 minutes and will follow with about 10 minutes of Q&A. To ask a question, just use the chat window on your right, and Ryan will queue them up at the end of the presentation. When you exit the meeting today, you will find a brochure for Asset Intellect, but you will not be able to download the presentation. Today, we are going to do mostly a demo. So the presentation will be made available along with the recording. At the end, when you exit, we ask you, if possible, to rate your experience because your comments are very valuable to us, and this is the only way we can improve ourselves. Without any further delay, I'd like to introduce to you Robert and David and pass on the microphone to them.
Thank you, Bernard. It's Robert Aikman speaking. I'm the Business Development Exec at Dimension Software, and we have David Barker, a long-time Pi fanatic, on the call as well, presenting. Okay, so Dimension Software, just to put in context who we are and what we do. We work with the Pi ecosystem, have for 13 years, and we're all about Pi. We're head officed in Auckland, New Zealand, which is COVID-free. We're very proud to say. And whilst we started out on our journey looking at using Pi and the engineering services, we've actually started to focus a lot more on standard commercial off-the-shelf products that complement and leverage the investment in Pi. So we now have clients throughout New Zealand, Africa, Australia, through Europe, North America, South America, and in particular in the decision support, asset management, visualization, everything to do with leveraging that investment in Pi. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is our Asset Intellect suite. Okay, so what Asset Intellect is about, it's actually using the Pi's asset framework, the AF structure, to build out and go deeper inside the other sources of information, because OT doesn't just live in isolation. It's part of the whole IT business strategy for the organization. We need to see the maintenance records. We need to see the PNIDs. We need access to other databases. We need to be able to go out and, in context of our OT or our Pi data, to be able to easily display the other databases. We don't want to have to wrangle to get data. We don't want to have to hop between different systems, because each of those hops wastes up to 30 minutes of time getting back to where the operator was. We need to be able to drill down from dashboards and be able to actually leverage the power of the Pi system and the other systems of record all in one place. Our applications are written so that they are tool agnostic, meaning we could use Power BI, Spotfire, Tableau, SAP, Maximo, whatever the IT tool of choices are. Our vision is that we will support them and enable those to become part of the overall ecosystem. So if I have a look now at Asset Intellect, as I said, built on the AF framework at the center, and then we go out from there and leveraging Pi Vision for visualization, any tools for advanced analytics like Seek, Trend Miner, RShiny, bringing those in, extending out to the maintenance management systems and external databases that we might have coming through. We then, our BI tools of choice that we might want linked in context of our Pi data, through to our Alarm Sentinel product, which is unique because it brings the alarms and events back in context of the Pi analog tags. We're not going to be demonstrating to any great extent Alarm Sentinel today. We've done that previously, but it forms part of the overall suite. It is a separate product and is licensed separately. They don't have to be purchased together, but you will see through the demonstration how integrated and how nicely that works. And then up to our external data sources, whether that be SharePoint, PNID sitting on a document library, off to Esri for mapping. So the concept being is that we're leveraging the Pi system and really exploiting that, because Pi is fantastic infrastructure. We want that built out. We don't want to have to add extra servers. We want to leverage the servers and services there. So without further ado, I'm going to pass to David to actually run a demonstration of our Asset Intellect suite. David.
Right, thanks, Robert. Yeah, so everything you see in Asset Intellect is all HTML5 based. So it repurposes on a mobile device, whether it be a phone or a tablet, and all the primary browsers will support this. So as you see here, I've just got a open in a browser, Chrome in this case. So what you see on the left-hand side is the Pi Asset Framework. It's not a copy of AF; it is the Asset Framework from Pi. You can have as many databases as you like. It's purely by configuration. You could have this, line them all up on the left-hand side there. The concept with Asset Intellect is bringing together content. In this case here, we show the content within tabs, and we associate that with elements in the Asset Framework. So either elements or templates. So the first example here is a fleet overview. So this is typically something an exec might see when he comes in, wants to see the status of the fleet, whether it's a fleet of turbines or wellheads. It could be a fleet of mining sites. It could be anything. So the idea at the top level is we bring together content and data from Pi through something like OLADB, but also from SQL and Oracle and other data sources. Each of these widgets are configurable, and I'll come back to the configuration shortly. As you can see, each of the widgets, we can size them as per how we want to lay them out on the screen. We can expand them as required. The next one here is a mashup. So this is an interesting one where we've got a lot of different data sources on that one screen. So the first one, which most people will recognize, is a Pi Vision screen. So we've got live data coming in from Pi. We can manipulate the screens just like you would normally with a Pi Vision screen. And again, you'll see here that I've minimized and maximized that widget. If I wanted to, I could click on these hyperlinks that will drill me down on the left-hand tree. You'll see on the bottom left here we have a Power BI dashboard. And BI tools are really picking up a lot of speed in terms of being used in obviously in IT, but more so now in OT as well. As Robert said, Power BI, Tableau, Spotfire, ClickView, those are just some of the BI tools, the most common ones that we see. In this case here, what we're showing is downtime for a mine site. So I want to see all the blockages, click on that. Okay, I've got a whole bunch of blockages happening in the Conveyor 3 asset. And so I can drill into that and determine the lost production. Top right here is another chart, and these charts are configurable in terms of pulling that data out of either Pi or some other database. And the bottom right here is an example of using ArcGIS. So ArcGIS is an example of a mapping tool. What we can do with that is pull data from Pi and surface that on the map. So from here, I can see this little circle. I can size that circle. I can color that circle. I can put values near, at that site from Pi and based on Pi attributes. From here, I can click on that and hit the details because I want to see what's going on with that transformer. You'll see here we've drilled down from the fleet overview element. And I've identified an issue with a transformer, so that's drilled me down immediately to that asset at that site. So now what I see is a bunch of tabs for, in this case, the transformer. Now the concept is I want to see everything about this. I've got an issue with the transformer. I need to get data from Pi, but I also need different sources of information to help make my decision. So again, Pi Vision screen, I can use the new ad hoc trending capability, which is a great new feature from OSIsoft. But the next tab here is the maintenance history. So to help me understand why this transformer is showing red, I want to see what maintenance has occurred in the past with this asset. So what we're doing here is we're going off to either say Maximo or Infor or SAP to pull the maintenance work orders, or if it's SAP, it's notifications. So we pull those out on demand based on an asset ID, which is defined in the asset framework as an attribute. So you'll see here we have a urgent thermal check that's coming up within 1 week. That's highlighted red, and these are all rules and configurations that you can do. So maintenance data could be maintenance history. It could also be upcoming maintenance. It could be safety critical maintenance that's coming up. It could be overdue maintenance. It's really entirely up to you how you want to show this information. The next tab here is our manual data entry. In this case, what we do is we use the event frames within the asset framework to store that data. So each row here is an event or an event frame. As a user, I can click on that and I get this dialog box or a data entry view. This is all fully configurable as well in terms of how, what fields are shown, how many columns, different drop downs and so on. So event frames are great for a lot of different things, and I think they're often underutilized, and I think there's a lot of potential with event frames. So in this case here, we're using it for lab data. So we have an oil analysis going off to a lab, and the results come back and they gets entered into the event frame. But event frames are great for downtime, so plant downtime or environmental excursions, condition monitoring like vibration events, operator logs and shift handover logs, that sort of thing. And we'll come back to some of those examples in the demo. So with this event, I can also click on this little icon on the left, and that will open up a Pi Vision screen, and it might be a trend of some data and so on. So this is just a normal vision screen that you can associate with the event frame entry. What I'll do is I'll jump across a few things here up to the documents. So again, just reiterating, we're still at the transformer and we're seeing everything about that transformer all in context. So the documents, this will be things like maintenance records, it could be standard operating procedures, specification as built documents, that sort of thing. These documents will typically live on a document management system like SharePoint or M-Files, Documentum, those sorts of tools, or even simply a file server. So we link with those, and while I won't go into the detail about how we link, we can definitely talk through that if you're interested. The idea, though, is that the files will stay in those source repositories. They don't get copied into Pi, they just get referenced. One of the popular features that we've recently added is the wiki. Now this is really for ad hoc notes that are often sent around via instant messages, post-it notes, conversations, generally unstructured information. And when I say unstructured, I'm talking things like screenshots and text that doesn't really go into, for example, a maintenance system, but it could be a result of just looking at a trend and I want to record that excursion that I saw. It could be a picture of another vision screen. We've even had thermal imaging, a picture of a thermal image, looking at that and storing that. So all these wiki entries are stored against the asset, in this case, the transformer. They can also be stored against the asset template as well. So I could create a wiki entry and associate that with all transformers of that type, because this wiki entry may be applicable to all transformers that are made by ABB, for example. The idea here is I can click on the new content button here. I might have an excursion that I'm working on. Select the type. These are all configurable, but in this case, I can say it's a investigation. It's a high priority because it really has it's affected our production. Everyone here, so I'm happy for everyone to see this wiki entry, or I could say it's just for myself. It's only for me. And in terms of scope, I can say, well, this is only for transformer, or the transformer at Unit 1. So here now I've got a blank canvas really, so I can just click on this button here that puts my username on the top there. I can then do some text. I'll save that. What I might do is just I'll snip a screenshot. Let's say it's from the it might be from this trend, because I can see it's ramping up. We've got some issues going on here, and I want to make a bit of a story about it, so I can record it. So I'll paste that in. Plus, I can again make a story ramping up. So it's reasonably simple there. I can create links to other systems. I could email that to my colleagues, and that will be emailing a link. They'll click on that link, and then they would be drilled into this wiki entry. So you can have lots of different categories: observations, asset management. They're all, you might have condition monitoring, performance category, just to help it, to put some structure around it. Again, that's all configurable. We can search on that, so I can say search on the wiki for anything that says trend. I've got a few wiki entries here. I saw this trend and so on. So you can use the wiki across any of these elements. So if I'm in the protection element, I don't have any content defined, but I can always go to the wiki and it will show me any entries that are applicable. So another thing we can do is we support integration with Seek, which is an advanced time series analytics tool, and same with Trend Miner. Very much the same thing, where it's an advanced time series analytics. Very powerful tools, and we've integrated with them. So as a user, I can say, well, again, I'm looking at my vision screens, I'm looking at my maintenance history, but I need to dig a bit deeper. So here I can jump into Seek. You see that it's already drilled me into that transformer. I don't need to re-drill that. And I can bring up that data, maybe over a period of, say, 2 weeks. And I won't go into the detail of Seek. There will be, there's plenty of content on the internet, and either talking to Seek or Omicron about that. And there's a similar sort of concept for Trend Miner as well. But at a high level, I can search on, for example, high temperatures. I could do profile searching, so looking for all the, for example, all the ramp-ups that have occurred in that process data. I could look at things like predictions, so what is the expected temperature of the transformer? And there's a lot of other capability in that. What I will do, though, is I'll get the link of this Seek workbook. Jumping back to my transformer here. And you'll see, again, we've got the tabs at the top. What I can do now, I'll go into designer mode. So while I'm here, I'll talk a little bit about permissions. So everything's AD integrated. So we can determine who has access to go into designer mode, who can see what tabs, who can make entries into the wiki, who can put data into the lab data screens. We can also allow certain groups of users to create their own tabs. We call those ad hoc tabs, which means certain users can create their own screens for themselves only. So I've created a new tab here, Seek Trends. And from here, I can determine what I want to show in this tab. So I could show Power BI, Pi Vision, some custom intranet type data, and so on. In this case, I'll choose Seek. So now I've got this tab with my Seek data. And if I go to Unit 2, Transformer, you'll see that's now up here, same tab, and the data going for that, but for Unit 2 in this case. So just recapping the concept around this, we're pulling together information from Pi in terms of Pi Vision, event frames for data entry, maintenance history from your SAP, your Maximo, and so on, documents from your document management systems, P&IDs, single line diagrams, as-builts, that sort of thing. We've got the unstructured information, which is your what we call the wiki, and the more your advanced analytics as well. So we're pulling all that information together based on the asset framework in a configurable way as well. So if you're in the oil and gas industry, these tabs will be completely different. And again, you've seen how configurable it is to create that. If I zoom up to the top level, to the station level, this is a power station. So again, a vision screen. We can bring together things like reporting. So this might be daily reports, like a production report. Maybe it comes out every day at 8 a.m. This report is authored in Excel. It can be using Pi Data Link, for example, and it's scheduled through the configuration on the right-hand side here. So the reports can come out on a time basis, but they can also come on or be generated on a condition, or an event frame. So if the plant trips, that will create an event frame, and we can then generate a report and attach it back into the event frame. So some really cool ways of orchestrating reporting and actually being able to distribute that report and attach it to an event frame as an annotation. One other aspect we've got is the alarms and events. So what we have here, and this is called an Alarm Sentinel, which can be separate, and it also embeds into the Asset Intellect suite. So we've done this, we've demonstrated this in a webinar earlier with Omicron. So check out that webinar. It should be on the internet there for a deeper dive into Alarm Sentinel. But at a high level, I'll just jump into some of the concepts around it. We pull data from the DCS, SCADA systems, HMIs. All the alarms will come in through the Pi system. I'll just quickly go into the architecture. So your SCADA system, HMIs and so on, they're all producing alarms and events. You'll normally have your data like OPC DA, that data is going into Pi in real time. What we then do is put in an interface like the OPC AE interface, the alarm and event interface. That will collect the alarms in real time and send that data to Pi as a single string tag. So it's one tag for the entire DCS. We then push that through into a SQL database and ultimately show that into the web user interface. We also have a KPI engine. So this is the ISA TR18.2 based KPI engine. So that's creating metrics like alarm rates, priority distribution, standing alarms, chattering alarms, alarm floods, and so on. So we calculate all those and push those back into SQL. And also some of those go back into Pi. So there's a little bit more to it, but I'll jump into the end user interface. So here what I can see is I've got a superheater steam temp alarm. We've got the temperature has gone into the high state. So we've got a high steam temp. From here, I can go to Pi and pull that steam temp from Pi. So on the left-hand side, we've got the alarms. On the right-hand side, we've got the Pi data, and we've meshed the data together. I can show things like high and low limits. I can right-click and show just that steam temp alarm, show only when it went active, and then put that on the trend. So it's happened 3 times in recent time. These are the dotted lines here. As a user, what I can do is I can add comments against the alarm. So I just right-click and add a comment, which will show up as a little speech bubble on the left-hand side. We can search on the alarms. So I could say, well, show me all the alarms where the message contains the word steam. And I'm zooming through this a little bit quicker because we have covered this earlier on a different webinar. filter that by the active state and then put that on the trend. So I can see here that we've got a chattering alarm. The conductivity is going a little haywire there, and I can see that overlaid with my data from Pi. We can also show the alarm KPIs. So these are things like alarm rates, top 10 alarms, floods. We may have alarm floods where the operator's been flooded with too many alarms in a period of time. And these are all configurable, and you can expand on these and drill down. So I can see we've got an alarm here. It's a significant chattering alarm. From here, I can drill that to understand why are we getting these chattering alarms, and see that against the process data. So it's obviously this alarm here is occurring quite regularly. Carrying on along on the top here, we've got things like downtime. There's another example of event frames, using Pi event frames with an AF. So create the analytics in AF. We then allow the user to enter reason codes about why that downtime occurred. Again, all these are configurable. We can calculate things like production rate, loss, maybe the cost of that downtime, and so on. And with that, we use integrators like the Power BI integrator to show that information within a BI screen like Power BI or Tableau and so on. So in that short space of time, I think that's covered most of the concepts. If I just go up to the top here, you'll see here, again, we're at the fleet level, so we've gone from high level, almost executive level, to look at the operation of the fleet, maybe the maintenance history, the performance. We can also look at things like the asset health, and being able to drill down based on the condition of the assets and performance and so on. We can look at the alarm management KPIs. As an executive, that is one of the KPIs that are key to making sure that the operators are operating the plant within a safe manner, and they're situationally aware. They don't have a flood of alarms constantly. So that's one of the key things to know as an executive. Robert, have I missed anything?
Thank you. No, that's great, David. Can you just bring up there the alarm on that screen there for our heat map for the alarms, just very briefly? Yeah, I think it's a really good example. So this is, we have a customer who's looking at every 10 minutes. They need to know the status of their alarms, and they aggregate that so they can tell the overall criticality of their assets at a glance. So the color scheme here, gray is good, red is bad. So at a glance, they're able to very quickly see, oh, that train 1 that has an issue. And if they then hover over one of those red markers, and I'm not sure we have this on the demo system, but we can actually drill. Okay, if we click on that, we should drill straight down to what that is within the alarms and events. We have this running in a mining situation where they're looking at operator response times between the different mines. Chemical industry where they're looking at key aspects of their production and safety. So I think what David's demonstrated here is these tools are very flexible. We provide the framework that allows you to use Pi in all these different ways. Now, the screen that David just brought up there, the different tiles on that screen, what is it, about 9 or 10 of them, they can be changed around, all AD integrated, and so you can make the screens look how you want to run your business and what you need to run your business. So if I'm an operator, I might only see 4 or 5 tabs across the top. One might be my daily rounds, another one might be health and safety issues. Very flexible. So I think we've basically very quickly covered off the demonstration, David. So if we just come back. So yeah, again, just like to reiterate, we're leveraging the Pi asset framework, which most customers have a huge investment in, and actually now bringing that in to that whole ecosystem of everything to do with running the business, so that IT and OT merge together, and we end up with that virtual data warehouse where we have access to all of the right information. If we need to go off to a data warehouse to pick up some information, we can, but we actually have everything in context. So in summary, challenges we're seeing out there that are very common is application proliferation, and also applications that are no longer supported or supportable because the technology's moved on. So we see that as a really big issue in business, is these orphan applications, and what do you do with them? How do you support them? We see that data is often stored in multiple different systems. So what is the system of record? What is the truth? Getting that ability for a remote worker very quickly to be able to access one set of software that gives them all of the tools they need. And obviously resource shortage. We never have enough staff to do what we need to do. So what we do, quite simply, is we utilize Pi, the AF framework, vision, and the tools that are already there, that are already supported by the business, and bring them into one place. Link those data sources into a virtual data warehouse. Benefit being is that we have the complete view of the asset. We can see everything that we need to about it in the right place at the right time. We don't have to go hunting for it. So we accelerate the problem detection, remediation, and also being able to put notes as to why things have happened, so that we can always return to operation, to production. Productivity is the key that we're all aiming to increase. And using the applications we have to the fullest. Now, we've deployed this solution at AGL, and management at AGL have said, this is now giving us a single point of truth, that we know anything that we access via Asset Intellect is the corporate information. That is the window we use. So I'm now going to hand back to Bernard to moderate questions.
Thank you very much, Robert, and thank you, David. One question, I think you referred to it, but how does the roll-up of information take place for a group of assets? For example, if you're looking at downtime, does Asset Intellect take care of rolling up the downtime statistics?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So in that case there, I had, I'll just hop tab to that one. So we've got different units all producing downtime, hopefully not too much. But yeah, each of those will have event frames, and that can be rolled up into the station level. So I could see all the event frames from the child elements of the units, and within that we can also roll up the stats to to OEE records and so on. AF has some good roll up capability as well.
Next question is, let's say I have my AF server and I have my templates, and I got started already with AF, and then I decide to switch over to Asset Intellect. Do I have to rebuild my whole AF structure, or how do I transition from?
Yeah, so if you've started building out your AF, that's really good. It's good to hear. You don't need to fully build the AF structure. You don't have to have every tag put into an element. You may have maybe just the high level structure built out. So it's very easy to configure to pull that data into what AF database you want to pull into the structure.
Okay, so this means essentially Asset Intellect fit in place, essentially.
Yeah, that's right. And the deployments are measured in weeks, not months. It's relatively easy to deploy on generally existing infrastructure. So you may have PyVision web servers. So yeah, often Asset Intellect can go onto that same web server.
David, Robert, on behalf of everybody who attended, I thank you very much for spending the time to prepare this presentation. So here's some contact information in case you want to discuss Asset Intellect further. Please don't hesitate. Just contact any one of us. We'll be happy to help you. In closing, just again, a reminder, just tell us what you think about what you heard today. We're always trying to find ways to improve. Omicron is running this webinar series to promote best practices and best of breed layered applications for users of the Pi system. So any feedback you give us is extremely valuable. You'll receive a link to the recording within a few business days. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, David and Robert, for taking the time to do this from wonderful Auckland, New Zealand, for all of us here in the US. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks,
Much
guys.
appreciate your support.
Thank you for listening to this webinar replay. For more information, visit us at www.omicron.com or contact us at omicron@omicron.com. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you like the content.